To become the CEO of a 2,000 person AEC consulting firm, you've got to go through a lot of professional development. You've got to succeed a lot, but you're probably going to fail a lot too along the way. Well, today's guest on the Civil Engineering CEO, Mike Carragher, licensed professional engineer, president and CEO at VHB. Mike's going to talk about his journey to a high-level leader in the consulting field, and he's going to give you some things that you can do to try to help you progress to the next stage in your career. He's also going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not just talk about it, but he's going to offer up some real resources that are out there in the industry that firms can use to become more diverse, and real programs, real opportunities to examine your DEI footprint and make it better. Right now, I'd like to welcome our guest onto the show for today. Mike Carragher is a licensed professional engineer. He's also the president and CEO of VHB. Mike, welcome to the Civil Engineering CEO.
How you doing, Anthony? Great to be here with you.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And maybe before we kind of dive a little bit into your career, you could just give us a little bit of an intro to VHB, if you would.
Sure. I'm coming to you from Watertown, Massachusetts, which is right outside of Boston. And this is where VHB is based. And VHB is really, we're in our 44th year. And we're one of the leading firms in the country. I think we're ENR number 58 today. We really are this really fun, vibrant, kind of collection of 2,000 kind of passionate professionals that do, engineering, planning, design, and bringing it all together. And we're really looking to improve mobility and community and environmental stewardship for our communities, make our communities a better place to live, work, and play, and make them economically viable. And we do this work with transportation agencies, local and state governments, the real estate market, the energy market, and we do it for colleges, universities, and hospitals. And in the federal government, we do a lot of work for the National Park Service and USDOT. But all of those things are how do you weave together mobility, community, environmental stewardship, and really bring that context understanding and bring solutions that make the world a better place.
No, that's awesome. And we're thrilled to have you. VHB is certainly a leader in the industry, and we appreciate some time here. So let's talk a little bit about your career journey. You've kind of have done very well in progressing as a leader in the industry. You've had many different roles. What would you say overall, looking back, has maybe been one of the bigger facilitators of your professional development as you've kind of transitioned through these different roles in your career?
I think it's the ability to kind of be aware of what's going on and adapt. I mean, at the core of it, a civil engineering degree from the University of Delaware. I came out and, at first just kind of mastering whatever element that it is you're focusing in, and for me, it was around kind of highway and bridge design, and which led me into transit and becoming really good at the technical aspects of what you do. And then starting to look broader to the context of, okay, how do all the pieces of this fit together? I know my part really, really well, but the more I understand the context, the more I can make my part better, then I can help our team get better. And then kind of had this parallel element of, as I was starting to realize how did my piece fit into the team, kind of raising or broadening my perspective and thinking about, wow, how can the team work together better? Or how do we get the team to integrate or collaborate in a better way? And it was that bit that kind of helped me move into project management. So again, you kind of got really good at the technical nature, the financial elements of project management, and then stepping back and say, okay, but this is a group of people trying to accomplish something. Let's treat it like a team of people that you're trying to get to collaborate, who all have this great technical expertise. The more I can help them understand the broader context and the parameters of what we're trying to accomplish, kind of the business side as well as the technical side, led me into project management. And, from that standpoint, then it just kind of took me back to, again, I kept broadening my aperture, if you will, and that had some people say, hey, why don't you lead a team? And what would you think about leading an office? And those things just kept, as I kept stepping back and looking at it, never losing the focus on, okay, I have to understand the technical aspect. I need to understand what my colleagues are doing and fit together in the context of how are the people on my team interrelating? And if I could get them to relate better and be more comfortable with each other, we could get a better, not only technical solution, but a context-based solution. And that's just kind of played itself all the way out. And, you know, ending up leading VHB now, I'd say it was just that continuous broadening the aperture and trying to figure out how to get the team to accomplish more than a group of individuals.
Yeah, that's great. And I really like the way you laid it out, because I think that that's often a pathway that a lot of technical professionals take is, we go to school, we learn the technical stuff, which is critical and a good foundation for us. You come out, you start to grow, you likely become a project manager if you want to go down that management track. And we do a lot of work with firms around project management. And the one thing I always tell people is the phrase project management is a little bit misleading because it's missing the word people, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is like kind of the biggest component of it. But then to your point, as a project manager, if you really want to progress, now you're interacting with teams, you're thinking about teams, you're dealing with external relationships, internal relationships. And it's really just kind of the progression, I would say, of an engineer. And kind of all those things being said, Mike, based on where we're at today in terms of the business climate, what do you think are maybe one of or some of the really important skills for engineers to have in the world that we live in today and the way the industry is today?
In order to be really able to, I think, apply your technical knowledge, it goes back to that idea of context. And I think, recognizing that, in everything we do, change is inevitable. And rather than getting frustrated by it, see it as an opportunity for kind of personal growth. And so being able to kind of really be curious and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because things are going to be dynamic and change. The nature of how we apply our solutions is changing. And I think to be successful in this environment, you not only to that originally kind of master what you're good at, understand and keep watching what's going on around you. Look at how our industry, how the types of challenges that we're being asked to face will change. And I usually look to and say to our people, look at what's going on in society, because what society needs, or what society will need to thrive, is going to inform our clients, which will then inform the things that they ask us to do. So the more you're kind of understanding what's going on out beyond just engineering, I think the better we're able to apply our engineering skills and expertise to create, what now is and it's really always been important, but now it's kind of talked about more, solutions that, create a sustainable society going forward.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting the right thing today. It's about creating a solution that recognizes the challenge that, we'll all face going forward, and making sure you've taken that kind of sustainability and resiliency perspective into the delivery of the technical expertise we're applying.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think like maybe 10 years ago, if a civil engineer was coming out of school, you might not say to them that the number one thing you'll have to think about is being flexible and being adaptable. Whereas today, right, it's like technology, look what happened with COVID and people working differently now, right? There's just like, that just has to be like a running theme in your career at this point to be successful. Is you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to flex. And quite frankly, in the AEC world, our projects are constantly changing anyway and flexing, and you have to have that, with your technical skill sets. But I think one thing too that Mike kind of reminded me of there, that I think is a really important thing to remember, is that even if you're a technical professional as an engineer, and that's what you want to stay, a technical professional, right?
Yeah.
We need people that are technical through and through for their career. You still want to develop some of these other skill sets, because, you have to interact with people. You have to explain your designs to people. So I think it's important that I don't think everyone needs to be pushed into management, but I also think that it's helpful for you to develop all of your skill sets, whether you technical or managerial, because it's just going to help you as a professional and in life.
everything we do in this profession requires, to your point, interacting, understanding the people you're working with, understand the client you're working for, understand the, kind of the regulators that they're going to be reviewing your project. So, these things that people call soft skills, I think that underplays them. They're success skills. There's success skills in delivering the technical excellence that we all desire to do. There's success skills in navigating your career, allowing you to kind of be, successful at the full realization of who you are and what you want to be. So those skills aren't just other things or soft skills that, well, I'm really good at this technical thing. I think to allow your technical expertise to blossom, you need to understand these other skills so that people are open to listening to your ideas. People give you an opportunity to share your insights and expertise and even wisdom. So those things all come together. And, I think sometimes, again, there's a lot of core competencies that we need to develop when we're, in college or pursuing a bachelor's or master's, or even going for your PhD. But at some point, you're going to need to be able to kind of share your expertise and perspective. And you're going to need to understand how to, kind of work with collaborators and peers and teams. So those skills are critically important to success, to pair with and integrate with your technical expertise.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'll say too, for those of you out there, and maybe we have some students that are listening, or some recent graduates, in talking with a lot of firms today, when people come out of school, they do say that they really need work on some of these communication skills and social skills. And they're trying to work with their recent graduates on that. And it's, listen, there is more devices out there today, and we do, and sometimes kids spend more times on those than we used to. And I don't want to stereotype, but it happens. But what I would say to you is, if you are in college, if you are a recent graduate, even if you're 10 years into your career, try to get as much communication skills practice as you can. Join a Toastmasters, right? Offer to do a lunch and learn within your company, because it's only going to help you, like Mike said, to be a better professional, the more well-rounded you are. And I think that it's going to be very important for firms moving forward. Better just communication across your firm, better skill sets across the firm is going to be kind of the firms that are going to be able to really succeed and grow sustainably. And so you can be a factor in that if you're developing your skills, because you could even mentor others. And that's really important. All right. So Mike, we talked about your career. You've done a lot of things. In 1995, you moved to a new location and you started an office. Tell us a little bit about that experience. I know that there are people out there today, I'm sure, considering it, and would love to hear about that process and how it was for you.
It was the scariest, most exciting thing I've ever done. So I was asked, I was working for a firm, and I was working in Philadelphia, and I had helped them land two big projects. One of them was part of the Central Artery Third Harbor Tunnel, or the Big Dig project. And they were with Boston-based clients. And they said, we think, we should open an office. And I said, oh, well, let me do some homework. I worked up there in the late 80s. I know some people. I can kind of understand the market a little bit and put together a business plan, and, listed the 5 people that I thought would be good candidates to run the office. And they said, no, we want you. And I said, no, my name's not on the list here. And they convinced me, and, sat down with me and my wife, and because those are big decisions and they impact your whole family. And we said, all right, let's give this a shot. And I opened the office with all of 1 people, and would be excited when the mailman came in so I could say hi to somebody on those first few weeks. But what it forced me to do was to say, okay, yes, I know we have 2 projects that are going to eventually get started, but I really need to put myself out there. I need to get to know colleagues, peer firms. I needed to join, ASCE, attend ACEC events. I got involved with WTS. They were the most welcoming organization, and realized it wasn't just a women's focus group, but it was a great place to meet and mingle and mentor. And it's also where I would start to meet clients. So then I started thinking of, okay, I have to get really good at pretty comfortably conveying who my company was and what was unique about us. And so it just kind of forced you into that perspective of, okay, I need to be visible, I need to engage, and I also needed to have a kind of a mini strategic plan, really, to think about, all right, we have this amount of work. I'm going to need to figure out how to create a buzz in the market that I could hire people into the firm. I need to be consistently visible so the clients kind of see me everywhere. And so it just taught me the bigger perspective of thinking every day, week, with a strategy of what I was trying to do, because I kind of had laid out a vision that by the end of year one and end of year two, I wanted to accomplish these things. And so kind of having that 1 or 2 year look ahead, gave me kind of line of sight direction to what to focus on or what to make sure that I allowed time for in each day, each week, each month to move that forward. And, I also learned, in the beginning, I was asking myself, is this working? Am I succeeding? And it was driving me crazy. And I finally realized, no, I have to put that question off for 6 months. I'm going to just work the plan, reach out to colleagues in my company when I need help. Don't try to do it alone. And then every 6 months, I check myself. Okay, how am I doing? Did I make progress? Because if you do it every day, you'll drive yourself crazy. Just put a plan together, commit to it, drive forward, and about 6 months, step back, take a half a day, and just reflect, write down what you accomplished, what changed in your perspective, and kind of use that to kind of reset. Okay, let me think about the next 6 months. And not every day ask yourself, is this working? Should I have done this? Because that can sap so much of your focus and not allow you to focus on the things that'll help you succeed.
Yeah, I really love that. In fact, I'm reading a book right now that very lines up with that. It's called The Score Will Take Care of Itself, and it's about the late great Bill Walsh, NFL football coach, who basically took the San Francisco 49ers from, I think, 2 wins to a Super Bowl in 24 months. And people were like,
Pretty amazing.
yeah, how did you do that? And what he said was not dissimilar from what you just said, which was, I never focused on winning the Super Bowl. What I took a look at is like what it would take to build a great team, looking at other teams out there. And we just did those things every day. And if we kept doing them every day and we built good habits, the ultimate end result was winning the Super Bowl. Kind of like to what Mike said, you can't be looking up every day and say, is this working? Is the office growing? Is what I'm doing? Like, you have to have some really good habits, put your head down, work on them each day. Obviously, along the way, you want to take some measurements to make sure you're on track. But for the most part, establishing those habits and keeping at it. And I think the other thing that I would take away from Mike's experience there, which I think is a really important one for everybody out there, is sometimes when you put pressure or some stress on yourself, it's the only way that you can really broaden your horizons. Like, maybe Mike wouldn't have gotten out there and got involved with all these associations because he needed to get work. He was kind of up against it. He put himself in a position where there was only one way to go. There was really no other way to go. Would you say, Mike, that was helpful to kind of push yourself?
It was. It forced you to, like, all right, am I going to sit here and, give up? Or, what, people, they wouldn't have asked me to, I realized, and I've kind of adopted this, and I share this with a lot of people too. They wouldn't have asked me to take that position if the company or the president of that firm didn't think I had the skill sets that could be successful. Clearly, I had never done this before, and but they had the belief in me, so I needed to accept that belief and say, all right, I guess I do have the right skills. What do I have to do? And I challenged myself not to let myself down, not to let down the confidence they had in me, and to push forward. And at certain times, realize that you needed to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, whether it's a mentor you have, whether it's hopefully your supervisor, you have this relationship, and say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me break through this barrier? Or I tried this, this, and this. They don't seem to work. I thought they would because these reasons. And then they might be able to say, well, have you tried this? Rather than saying, I'm not going to try. That'll never work. I'm doomed. You almost have to find that belief in yourself that, okay, no one would have put me in this position if they didn't think I could do this. So let me explore everything I can and go at it. I mean, great things aren't accomplished with stretching yourself and putting yourself in challenging positions, and then drawing on what you've learned, keep looking and learning along the way, and stay with it. the first hurdle you run into, don't let it be the end of your road. You'll learn how to get over that hurdle, and with each time you get over a hurdle, you gain more confidence that you have the inherent skill sets, or your ability to learn and adapt will allow you to get over subsequent hurdles. But you've got to stay with it and find that belief in yourself.
That's great. I love that action as a way to get through self-doubt that you shared, Mike, about saying, if someone put me here, they put me here for a reason, right? And I think that that's a challenge for a lot of technical professionals when they get into a managerial role, because it's just not natural to us, at least
Right.
early in our career, right? So, someone's giving you the opportunity because they saw something in you, right? And now you can take it and run with it. And
We all have that self-doubt. It comes to
yeah,
all of us. It still does. I still deal with it, but you got to just, okay, don't let that overrun me. Let me think this through, and I can figure this out. You know what I mean? And I've got great colleagues. We'll figure out and use the power of your team.
yeah, and like you said, the more hurdles you jump, it becomes easier to jump the next one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a good way to think about it. So let's go back a little bit to what we talked about earlier, technical, versus non-technical
yeah.
skills. How do you kind of balance the development of the technical and non-technical skills at VHB, like as an organization?
You know, to your point, they are two different. There's multiple paths. I mean, they're the two kind of macro level, if you think about it. And you need technical expertise. You need deep understanding and people who are always looking at the next great way to advance a technical solution. And they have critical importance to the strength of your team, of your firm. I mean, the one thing that none of us in this industry can get past is, technical foul-ups. I mean, you have to have that ability for your client, your boss, your team to know that you can deliver the technical solution. So making sure that we create paths for people to, give them training to deepen their technical expertise, to give training opportunities for how to lead a team, how to manage projects, how to, even going on to leading an office, but ensure that we're investing in both elements of them, rewarding both elements of them. I think it's very easy for somebody to see, well, I understand a path of management and how I would move up, but the technical side, I think, don't think of it as, I just need to be technically good at this. If you're going to reach a level of technical excellence, then you're sharing your technical excellence across your company, your team, your company. You're speaking at conferences, so you're putting your company in a good position, and you're out there meeting other people with significant technical expertise to learn from them. We're never done learning. So I think that's, the parallels of advancing in both directions is, it doesn't mean that you're not advancing if you're just becoming really technically good. It's, what are you going to do with that accumulated technical knowledge? How are you going to lead and share that with your team? How are you going to help share that expertise across multiple offices? How are you going to build visibility and credibility for your company by the way you're presenting at conferences, or writing papers to push and challenge that technical area? Because that's as important as creating the the visibility of your team or your firm, as the person advancing on the management track, figuring out how to organize the element, kind of manage the financial element or the business development element of them. I think sometimes if you're technical, you think, I want to go technical because I don't like business development. I don't, but you are, in fact, by the act of being that technical expert, you are creating visibility, or you have the opportunity to create visibility for your firm, which strengthens your firm business development effort to give you the opportunities to solve the biggest challenges for your clients. So they are different paths, but there's related elements of them. And I think embracing it in that way can only allow you to become even more impactful as a technical expert, and to keep advancing your career that way.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I'll add to that is, you may have technical career paths and opportunities for your employees, but they might not know it unless you're communicating it to them. And I just spoke to one of our clients who lost a really skilled technical professional because that technical professional didn't see a growth path for technical professionals within the firm, even though they feel like they have one. So, even if you think you have a lot of different ways for people to grow, you have to really try to put some career pathing together to make it very clear and communicate that to people. Otherwise, I always like to say they might feel like they're rowing a canoe in the fog, right? They're being asked to row, but they can't really see like what's up ahead and where they're going. So how can you really keep going in that scenario? And so you have to really clarify things for people and show them kind of where they can go. And if you do that, I think you'll have a lot higher engagement and you will promote more technical professionals. Because I do think it's a really kind of a rough misnomer in the industry right now is that the only way to succeed and get to a very high level is to go quickly get into that management track. And I don't think that's always the case. So
I think our industry hasn't done a good job at that.
yeah.
And I think over the last few years, to your point, firms are being more consciously proactive to talk about that, to show career paths. I know one of the things we're doing now is assembling, kind of almost a dozen typical or general career paths that would show how you would progress from an entry level engineer and, what a career path that might lead you to be a chief engineer or lead you to be a service leader where you're helping advance the technical excellence of that entire service line and sharing your expertise across the company. Again, go back to those people skills, the ability to share and to bring together a number of people who are really focused on technical excellence. That's a key skill to have. But I mean, these are all career paths. How do I become, the technical go-to for a given solution set? And then how do I let the company know that? And how do I mentor others behind me to move in that direction? So having these career paths for people to see, oh, how did, the transportation service leader get to that role? And all of us, when you look back at your career, it's never a direct line. So people sharing their stories and saying, these are some of the steps along the way that are common, but your journey will probably wander a little bit. And, there'll be a left and a right if you're taking opportunities along the way, but it'll still move you in the direction that you desire to go.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I want to ask you a question. We've had a lot of ups and downs, to say the least, over the past few years with COVID and economy and a lot of stuff going on in the world today.
Little things, global pandemic.
Little things here and there, right? So as a leader of an organization, everyone's kind of looking to the leader for your response around these things, right? Your energy, like, what's the message you're going to send everyone? And, how does someone in your position do their best not to kind of overreact or underreact when things like this happen, knowing that, you're kind of serving as kind of a heartbeat for the company, if you will, and you have to kind of communicate to your team about what we're going to do through this situation. How have you kind of managed that yourself?
Go back to one of the earlier things we were talking about. Getting comfortable that things will change no matter what. Almost like I said, that expecting the unexpected. You don't know what it's going to be, but as you move through your career and you take on different leadership positions on whichever track you go on, you do come to the realization that people are looking to the leader, whether it's the project manager, the team leader, the office manager, or even up to my role here at VHB. And so you do have to recognize how you carry yourself impacts your team, how you react to different situations. So with that in mind, you need to be conscious. And as long as you expect the unexpected, when things completely out of left field happen, and this takes practice and thoughtfulness, you need to take it in as information. You need to really be aware of overreacting. because overreacting, if your team is looking at you, will get magnified. Um, and you kind of process the information. Things are very rarely do you need an absolute life-saving split decision,
Right.
split second decision. So you're now getting new information. It is shocking information, but it's information you're going to need to figure out what to do next. So spend more time listening to or observing what is happening. And then, let your team know that, hey, this is completely out of left field. We have a really good team. What do we know? What don't we know? And let's think this through together. And so it kind of immediately lowers the stress level of your entire team. It allows your entire team to see you not overreacting. So maybe they think, wow, maybe I shouldn't overreact. And then you can get them focused on, all right, what do we know? What don't we know? We have to find out. What do we need to take care of in the short term? And, whose skill set on your team has the ability to best lead or to help navigate through this. We the global pandemic was something we all dealt with, and a lot of firms have also dealt with kind of cyber attacks. We had a very similar situation in around Halloween of 19. We were we had a cyber attack and a ransomware incident. And again, it was getting the team together, giving everybody the ability to kind of calm down. Inside I was churning, but I knew that wasn't going to help anybody. And, just getting your team to sit back and say, okay, we can figure this out. We can navigate this. What do you need? Who should take the lead on what part? There's a communications part. Yes, there's a technical part. There's the communicating with your clients part. And through that, then everybody started focusing on how to solve it. And everybody's temperature calmed. And then you bring everybody back together. Okay, through a half day, a day, what did we deal with? How did we solve it? Good. Oh, we did that. Okay, we can do this. And you start building some momentum. But it all does start on the leader to, again, not overreact, recognize and get comfortable. This is one of those challenges as a leader, to get comfortable that not that it's fair, but it's just true. People look to the leader for how should we react. And if you're able to stay calm. Now, in order to do that, again, you need to be creating time and practices, in your life to be calm. At different times I've as I've moved up into kind of higher level management, and you kind of think, oh, that must be more stress. Well, you could look at it that way, or it's just more chances to learn about, okay, how do I clear my head? How do I make sure I'm not so busy that I never have time to think? How do I calm down under stress, whether it's breathing exercise, whether it's yoga, whether it's different mental wellness elements that you kind of read about and practice. These are all really important pieces as you move through your career, and I think they help you in everyday life. I know they lead you in leading a team, and recognize that you don't have to be perfect, but you do need to be present for your team. You need to be providing the right leadership and guidance for your team. And if you're building your team over the long haul, for success, then when you do have a challenging situation, you can trust that you and your team will be able to figure it out and count on each other. The trust building you cannot underestimate the importance of trust building in a project team, in an office team, in a company leadership team. And as you do that, you realize that you'll be able to solve things, so you don't need to overreact.
That's great. And I do agree with Mike there that one of the biggest challenges of not overreacting is the first initial, when you initially find out about whatever the challenge or situation is, like how you temper your response, or the ability to have a little bit of patience in the moment. And one thing that I would say that's been helpful for me, and I know not everyone is obviously maybe leading a 2,000 person firm, but even if you're leading a 10-person team as an
Yeah.
engineer or project manager, one thing that I would say you can do is when you want to respond to something and you maybe write an email or a text message or a Teams message, don't send it right away. Right? Wait an hour,
Write it out. It feels good to
yeah,
write it out.
right. Get it
Step
out,
away.
step away, look at it, and then go back and say, is this the best approach for me to take? I know I'm speaking from experience because I used to send it right away. And then I kind of figured out that maybe that's not the best approach. And I think, like Mike said, I think over time and the more of these things that happen to you, it slows down for you and it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit easier to see it and let it breathe a little bit before you react. But that's just a little trick that's worked for me that can probably help you right away, because you probably have to do things like that on a daily basis and just be a little bit more thoughtful around them. Anyway.
I will tell you, you can learn this. What I just described to you is 180 degrees from the Mike Carragher of my teens, 20s, and early 30s.
Right, right.
And if any of my, friends or peers are listening to this, they'll be laughing at that, saying, yeah, that was not you, because I did. I overreacted. I was in the moment and, thought if I could get a million things done every day, I'd be better. But, that realization that as you moved into a leadership role, that people are feeding off of how you lead, that I had to figure out a way to not overreact, to not throw my hands up in the air or, let a yell out or say, what, are you kidding me? Because it didn't help. It might make you feel better because you let it out right away, but it doesn't really help the situation or your team. And once you start to flip to how do you be a leader, like I said, whether you're managing a task or project, office or company, if you really are interested in leading, then you have to keep thinking, what's the best for my team? And what do I need to do to put myself in the best position to help my team? I was not helping my teams back then. So
yeah,
that's kind of,
it
was a painful growth effort, but
right.
It was a valuable lesson.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So the last topic that I want to touch on, Mike, and maybe one of the more important ones we've talked about here, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's thankfully getting a lot more exposure in our industry today. You've become very involved in DEI. Tell us why you've become involved in it and kind of what you've been able to accomplish, and really what you want to accomplish as you go forward with some of the initiatives you're working on.
The industry we're in, just look at right now in the fall of 23, I would say it is the best market for our services in my 39 years in the industry. Do you know what I mean? The conditions, market conditions, the opportunities, the types of challenges, the scale of challenges, the scale of challenges to society, and our engineering profession's ability to make serious positive contributions to how we live and go on, require an incredible amount of expertise and talent. And if you went from the position of, well, we're not getting more engineers out of school, so how can we scale this up? I think that's a misnomer. I think there's lots of really incredibly intelligent, smart people with with broader, different life experiences and perspectives than I have. And so if you go back to the idea of how do we really understand context, you need people with a broad array of perspectives. So that led to, we should be looking in places that we haven't traditionally looked to strengthen, I know, the VHB team or our overall industry. And, we've tended to look at people who kind of look and sound like us and went to the schools we went to or in the groups we know. But if you really broaden it out and say, no, where, let me look at the broadest array of people. I don't care, gender, ethnicity, background. I'm looking for people, passionate professionals who bring great expertise. So when you start doing that, you realize it's actually been challenging to welcome people into our industry, let it go alone going back further and even encouraging people to go into our industry. And so a real focus on moving beyond, just kind of looking in the same places, and creating, for us at VHB, creating a company that's, welcoming to everybody. Because you could say, okay, well, we did increase the number of females, or we have broader representation across different ethnicities. But if you're not creating an inclusive culture in your company that everybody feels comfortable, bringing their whole self, their best self to work every day, they're not going to be with you very long. So, VHB diversity has been one of our core values since the mid 90s. And at that time, it was thought kind of more of kind of life experiences and gender, and I mean, VHB, we're almost 40% female. And, that idea of, okay, but are we creating an inclusive working environment? Are we recognizing the challenges that, women go through in their life cycle are very different than a male goes through? And so how do we make sure the working environment and the benefits and all those kind of things, are welcoming? And we've taken that and then broadened it out to not just ethnicities, but just, like I said, entire life experiences. And for me, this is an imperative on the type of firm we want to create and encourage and continue and improve. But I think as I started stepping back at it, looking at it, it's our industry could be a lot better at this. And I think there's a business imperative, because I want to find the best people wherever they are and however they exist. And I also, think it's kind of a moral imperative of just being, fair and welcoming the most amount of people, regardless of who they are, where they're from, or their experiences. And we've leaned into that at VHB. And, not only do we kind of encourage it and kind of constantly try to improve ourselves along this journey, but what we were doing at VHB was of interest to others. And recently, through the ACEC Research Institute, we've been making a very conscious effort as we think of the future of our industry. One of the most key elements is to, again, broaden and make it a more welcoming environment for everyone. So how do we help companies kind of understand how to move along that journey and advancing, their path around creating an inclusive culture? And, we just rolled out recently, I should say a few years ago, ACEC, we rolled out the Diversity Inclusion Keys to Success and Lessons Learned as kind of a guidebook. We've now moved that forward. And through the ACEC Research Institute, we've put together the diversity and inclusion kind of roadmap that allows firms to put in their, all of their employee data, answer a whole series of questions about how they're creating, a diverse, inclusive environment and culture at their firm, and then gives you guidance for kind of how to move along the path to continue your way along that journey of creating a really diverse and inclusive culture where people feel comfortable that they can belong to your team. And so if you go to the ACEC Research Institute website, you'll be able to find that diversity roadmap, and any firm can upload their information. It's held confidentially by a third party, and it'll kind of give you a roadmap to how to help move your firm along. But to me, this is one of the driving keys to our success as we think about the future of engineering and consulting in our business, because we need more bright people with skill sets, expertise, life experiences, the ability to handle context, who really do feel they're bringing their whole self to work, to pour it into work collaboratively in teams to create better solutions going forward. So, that's why it's been important to VHB. I find it just important as a personal mission of mine. And, the ACEC and the ACEC Research Institute are doing a lot of work to try to advance this.
That's great. And we'll definitely put some links below the video to the
That'd be great.
ACEC Research Institute, because what I love about what they're doing is they're making it more than just something we can talk about. They're allowing firms to take action and giving you a pathway to do that. Because, I think for many years, maybe there was more talk in the industry about this and not as much action. And now we're seeing action. And I'm glad that you're able to share what you know about that, Mike, so we can get those resources to other firms and other people, because we need to keep sharing this information so that people start to move forward. Because a lot of people that I know in firms, I know, want to move forward, but I just don't think they see the steps or the pathway. And now it sounds like people are starting to create pathways for that, which is great.
There are, and that whole element about kind of being a leader we talked about earlier, and people watch what you do. This needs to come from the top. Managers, leaders of company boards of directors, them leading by example, and then in your company, no matter how big, just putting together a DEI steering committee so people can kind of talk about these issues. They can kind of set some goals, hold each other accountable, and in your company, you can, offer kind of awareness programming, kind of unconscious bias awareness. It's not training. This is just understanding ourselves and how all of us just can learn to be more aware of what's going on around us. There's opportunities in companies to develop employee resource groups, so like-minded people can kind of dive in and kind of share their experiences. And, I think over time, what you recognize is there's a way to weave this into everything you do at your company, whether it's the way you recruit, where you recruit, the benefits you offer, how you market your firm, the development of your work environment, and, what becomes your culture over time. And there's lots of, kind of industry experts. There's a lot of help at the ACEC Diversity and Inclusion Belonging Subcommittee available. And like you said, I'm glad you'll share some of the links that people can dive in a little deeper if they want to find out how to get involved or look for some guidance. And just recognize that this is not something we're going to solve overnight. This is a journey that all firms are on. And it's really just about continuing to move in the right direction along that journey, and move it from should we think about this, to make it an imperative. This will make our industry better. It'll make us better as engineers, and it'll make our solutions more informed as we go forward.
All right. Well, Mike Carragher, licensed professional engineer, president and CEO at VHB. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today on the Civil Engineering CEO. I really appreciate it, Mike.
I'm glad you mentioned that PE, because I encourage everybody to get that as kind of a key step along your way. I'm very proud to be a professional engineer. It still is one of the highlights of my life, getting that PE. I remember today. And it's an important step, but like I said, it's an important one, but it's not the only one, but it is an important one to kind of build your career on from there. So best of luck to everybody out there. And thank you so much for inviting me. I enjoyed the conversation today.
Thanks, Mike. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mike Carragher. Mike really, really took some time to go through his career and share some things that I hope can help you succeed as an engineering leader. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel here. We put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.